Okay, I think we're live for video number 2. So welcome back. I don't guarantee that I'll remember any better on this video than I did on the first, but we got through it. Now you have the pattern. And let's get going on our next phase. So we're going to add our magnets and then put our pretty foil and decorator papers on. I'm going to take just a second here and find myself like I do on my laptop. And in the couple of hours that it's been between when I made the first video and this second one, my ears are plugged up. So it's really kind of crazy. I'm going to put some paper down so you don't have to watch that reflection either, hopefully. So I hope I'm not talking too loud. But that's just how life is, right? Okay, so I've got a good video here. It looks like a nice view. So let's put our magnets on first. So on this front cover, we're going to use the large set. You should have one each, small and large. All right, and so I want to pay attention to how much gap I have, and I have plenty. So that means in this flap here, I want to come down a little bit so I have room to glue around that. There are some times that I don't have that luxury, but we do. So I'm going to go all the way down there, probably about, is that a ½ inch? Probably about a ½ inch. So then I'm going to take my opposite one, and I wanted a stronger magnet, which is why you've got the larger for the cover. We want to get our magnets on before we put all of our pretty papers on. So I've just taken off my paper there. And now I want to pay attention here. I want this to be even to that score line. And then press so that it's a nice, even album. So when I open up, they're perfectly placed. And I love the sound of that magnet closure. Okay, so let's open up and do the same basic technique to the waterfall. And let's see, yep, looks like I'm still in camera, so I'm going to take one. It doesn't matter whether you do plus or minus in this instance. There are some times where it does matter, but not today. So again, we've got lots of room all the way up here, so I can come down a little bit, give myself room to glue that paper around it. Take off my paper. And press down. I don't mind a little gap because that allows for the expansion when I'm going to put all my papers on it. So we've got our magnets on. So now it's time for pretty paper, and we're going to start with our foil. Red foil. So I'm going to put red foil on the front and the back. So we're going to need 2 pieces. Bring my trimmer back in, and I think my trimmer can cut 2 at a time. I don't know what trimmer you have at home. So the magic of a recording is that you can hit pause if you need to. So this is my basic pattern, or my basic, what do you call it, equation. Whatever my measurement is, I'm going to take it down by 1/4. So we're going to cut these to 6 1/4 by 8 1/4. So I've got my 2 pieces of foil here, and I'll do my 8 1/4 cut first. All right, so we got lots of scraps, which we'll use some. Turn it 1/4 turn, and then 6 1/4. So it does really take a bite out of both pieces of paper, but you can't get 2 when you need a measurement of 6 1/4. So that's why it takes 2 sheets of this paper. All right, set that aside. We've got this little flap now. This is 3 3/8 by 6.5. So I'm going to take this narrower piece. So 3 3/8, 1/4 less would be 3 1/8. And then same thing, 6 1/4. Okay. And that'll cover our little flap. I'm also going to do the same thing on our inside flap. Let me show you. We've got, when we open it up, we've got this little inside flap that I put the red foil there. So let's do that guy while we've got our foil out. I wonder if I'm catching something because I got a froggy throat. Oh goodness. So it was 3 1/8. Remember from the last cut, it's going to be the same exact thing for the inside of the flap. 3 1/8. And then we're going to turn it that 1/4 turn and go to 6 1/4. That's our inside flap. Now we've got one more piece of red foil I'd like us to cut, and I'll show you where it's at. So I also outlined this closure with our red foil. So let's do that piece. I want it to be a little tighter than a 1/4. So bear with me here. Take another scrap. I think these scraps will work just fine. So you should have 2 shorter when we cut the flap piece. So find one of your 2 shorter pieces. Oh, might be a little short. Let me see what I chose to do. I want to have plenty of this red. I think we will. Let me look at the front cover. We need 1, 2 pieces. 1 piece is only going to be 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we can do it. We have enough. Okay. I think I want to be safe. So I'm going to cut this. I'm going to let it be a little shorter. So if it was 6, I would rather, oh my God, I don't know what I was doing, guys. Ignore everything I just said. This is perfect. If our length is 6, normally I would go 5 3/4, but I want it to be a little tighter. So we're going to go 5 7/8, which this just happens to be exactly 5 7/8. So I'm good there. So now, if it was 2, I would normally go 1 3/4, but we're going to go 1 7/8 because I just want a smaller mat around that piece of closure paper. So I was trying to weigh the pros and cons. I want to keep both of these big pieces for our front cover, and we've got one more place that we use it. We want these long pieces. So my apologies. And save these 2, because I think we're going to use those as well, these long skinnies. You want to use every bit of the foils as you can, because they're, you know, a little pricier investment in your paper collections. So let's go ahead while we have this. I've got mine open. Open yours. Let's find that closure piece that I just cut, which I probably just blended. Oh, I lost it. It's at the bottom of this pile. There it is. So I'm going to put a piece of color underneath so you can see. It's hard to see on camera, white on white. So can you see? I just wanted a smaller border there of our color. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and center that up, top and bottom, left and right, and glue that down. I do not like to use art glitter glue on something like this. And I don't know if it'll show here. I'll show you why, because I'm putting more paper on top. But when I have used art glitter glue, sometimes it'll show through the lines of the glitter, or the glue, onto the paper. I'm probably not going to get it to show. Maybe it has to wait till it's dry. But I just didn't like the lines of where my glue was showing through. So that's why I don't gravitate to that when making that part of our design. All right, let's cooch all the way to the far right. We've got this guy and we've got a magnet. So I'm going to move to my Fabrifix glue. I'm going to throw a little glue around the magnet. Just helps me make sure I've put some glue where it needs to be to seal up the paper to that magnet area. We don't want anybody peeking to see where our magic is and making that close up, right? Now look, I just accidentally got some glue from my fingers to that foil. It has acetone in it, so it's going to take that foil off. If it was in a place I thought it would show, I'd be ripping this off and putting a new piece on. But I know I'm going to put paper over this, so I think it'll be disguised pretty well. So be careful. And it'll ruin a manicure too if you're not careful. All right, let's move to our covers. This is the front of our flap. Again, I'm just going to center it left, right, top and bottom. Be careful if you're using one of these glues with this type of foil. I'm going to write a couple things down. This was 8.5 by 6.5 and 8.5 by 3.5. So I'm going to have all these covered up, and we're going to cut our pretty pattern paper next. All right, here's my first cover. And to help us see the edge, I'll just lay this here in camera. We can see the edge of that white. So I'm just going to center it up, top, bottom, left, right. Probably get tired of hearing me say that, but if I don't, there's going to be some time where I should have and I forgot. So better safe than sorry. Better redundant, huh? Okay. And you see why we wanted that heavier cardstock, just something a little sturdier when building this album. Now we're going to flip it to the back. Cover that baby up too. If I'm ever going a little too fast for you, feel free to pause, come back and join me. Okay, now the front and the back of the album have this pretty berry, so let's find the print. You can set the rest of your foil off to the side for a little bit because we'll come back to it, but it might take just a little bit. Find our berries paper. Oh, I can see my... Nope, I thought I could see it peeking out, but I could not. Let's see what I can find. Let's find the berries. There it is. So the back of it is this kind of suede red or watercolor red. Okay, so we're going to cut this to 6 by 8, which is, it's really good that we can get 2 of them out of here. So I need to bring my trimmer in camera. And I see that I've got the pin for my art glitter glue, so let me put that back in. All right. So this came from a paper pad, so I'm going to trim this down first. Take that hole into the trimmer and cut it at 12. I don't think we'll use that scrap, but I've surprised myself before. All right, so I'm going to make my first 8 cut, and that's going to leave this whole sheet. So So we're going to take that all the way over to 8 and then split it right in half, 6 and 6. And let's glue those to our pretty foil fronts and back. Isn't that so, I love that watercolor paper. All right, flip it. And it really is multi-directional, so we're okay. And in direction that you want. Okay, so there's the beginning. Now this might be a scrap piece that we use later, so I'm gonna wait for that. Set this aside because we'll probably use it. And let's open up our album and do the waterfalls next. Let's do our waterfall. So the waterfall piece is alternating. We've got the diagonal stripe and we've got the pretty foiled ornaments. So let's get those two pieces. Get my pile of papers. All right, so here's my diagonal. The back side looks like the presents there. And here is the ornaments. Now, there's I had a dilemma, so you can choose. When I opened the book, I had the ornaments going this way. If you want the ornaments facing this way, you have to do a different cut, okay? And I'll show you that in just a minute. So it's your call what you want, but I chose this way. And it could have gone either way. So we're going to cut all of these to 4 by 6, real easy. So I'm going to take my UPCs off. Let's get my diagonal side up. All right, so I'm just going to take it off at the 12. So if you want facing toward you, you need the 4 cut to be here. And then you would turn it and do 6. But I'm going to stay, you know what, I should do it. No, I'm going to stay consistent. So I need, let's count, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. So I'm going to cut to 4 this way and 6 this way. And I need 2 more. Oh, I see. Okay, 4 and 6. Save this. We're going to cut it in just a minute. So now we need 1, 2, 3. We need 4 of the same thing in the diagonal stripe. So I'm going to cut to 4 by 6. So we've got 2 of them. 2 more. 4. Let's see if there's anything. Nope, nothing I should be paying attention to. Good. 4 by 6. Let's go ahead and glue those down to our waterfalls. So it's just going to be alternating. I'll glue my first one in the ornaments. So you've got that bold, rich color when you open up the album and see it with the pretty gold. I'm just holding it for a minute to make sure it seals across that magnet. And then I'm going to grab a stripe. And it's going to go on the next facing panel. Not the back side of what we just did, but the next one that's facing up. All right, now we're going to go to ornaments. I always put some glue in the middle so I can avoid a puff pocket or something like that. Okay, and now diagonal stripe. I'm making sure that my diagonals are still going in the same direction. I just did a little peek. Looking good, guys. I notice this one's a little higher up, so I'm going to slide it down so it feels more lined up to this guy. All right, I think we're to ornaments now. Sometimes I lose track. Catching myself that I don't glue the ornaments upside down. Okay. Again, just double checking the angle, the direction of my diagonals. Lining up nicely. Ornaments. I don't know if you can hear my husband blowing his nose. He's been so sick. My brother-in-law had a bad cold and they rode together in a car 400 miles one way to their mother's funeral. And then my husband got sick. He's got some cough medicine with codeine, and he's day 5 on an antibiotic. And if it doesn't get better, I think he's got pneumonia then, or a bad case of bronchitis, and he's got to get back to the doctor. Probably way more than you guys cared to know. All right, let me show you something else. This last piece underneath, whoops, is a little wider, but all I had was a 4x6. So I put that on here, and later we'll have a scrap that we disguise that gap with another strip of paper. So we're gonna go ahead and cut one more piece that is 4x6 with that scrap that we had. So we've got this piece here. So it's already 4. Yeah, so I'm gonna take it, cut a 6 piece out of it. And that goes on our last piece of waterfall, gluing over the closure. Let me get a hold of it. There we go. So when we glue it, we're going to want to gear toward the bottom of that closure, okay, and not upside down. So I'm getting my glue to my back. And then don't sweat it, that it's not all covered. And we could have cut it a little wider, but then it juts out and it looks a little weird. So I just left it the same 6 as the others. So that'll still close just fine. And we'll get our striped border from scraps later on. Okay, so there's that. Now let's find our scrap from our cover, the berries paper, because that's what I used to cover that closure with. All right, so if that was 2x6, so we've got our long piece, and we went 5 7/8, we're gonna cut this now to 5 3/4. okay? Turn it 1/4 turn, and it'll be 1 3/4. Let's see how that fits and looks on our closure. It should have just a little bit of red foil. Yeah, pretty. Go ahead and glue that down. So it was 5 3/4 by 1 3/4. Can you see it now? I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but I can see every line that I put on that art glitter glue, which is why I don't use it here. Okay, there's our cover. And later on, we'll have a scrap and we'll cut a poinsettia to put there. Well, I put my dimension here and I did not cover this, so we'll have a bonus. We'll have a bonus. There'll be a scrap for sure. Okay, so now it's time to move over to here and let's find our paper for number 1, which is it's the wreath with the pretty gold in it. This piece right here. So if you're looking for it, the back side looks like watercolor or marbly green. We're going to cut it to 6 by 7 3/4. Okay. So again, I'm going to take my UPC off. What would be a UPC, it's the top of the pad. And then I'm going to cut it to 7 3/4 first. So I've got the Merry Christmas facing me. I'm reading it. I'm going to cut to 7 3/4. And then I'm going to cut to 6. Okay. And that's going to go on our top flap, the one that we can see. So let's glue him, whoop, don't do it upside down, but glue it on that top flap. Okay, so let's open the book. And as we open, the next page we see is also that same Merry Christmas. Okay, so we're going to glue that one, not to the back side of what we just did, but to the front side. So before we do that, let's make sure you guys have it closed like I did. So let's get to the very bottom of the album. And we're going to take the right flap and close it first, and then the left flap, and then the right flap, and then our left flap. So now we're going to open and put it on the next top flap. Okay, so the next piece of paper we're going to look for is the pretty Christmas tree paper that's got the gold in it as well. So here's mine, and here's what the back side looks like. We're going to do the same exact thing. So take that top piece off where the hole is. So we're going to cut it to 12. Turn it. Let's look at the Christmas side so you can see the direction. We'll turn it, cut it to 7 3/4 again. And split it in half, 6 and 6. Here's our album. So now we're going to do the back side of that top one and the back side of the one we just did. So both of those will get our Christmas trees. So there's a little uniformity when you're opening the album. And because it's a collection, it's all going to go together no matter what. Okay, so now we're going to open. And on the back side of the Merry Christmas wreath, we're going to put the other one. Okay. And when it's kind of hanging like this, I'll flip it over and press, so I'm making sure everything's making good contact. Okay, so that's our 2 top flaps. So now our next flap is going to be opening to the left. So let's find that one, and we're going to use dark green. So we need to find one that's got a dark green background. So this one here, I think I liked the dark green better than the pine cones. Same thing on all of these. So we're going to take that hole off by cutting it to 12. Turn it back and cut it to 7 3/4. And then turn again 1/4, split it right down the middle, 6 6. So let's use our back side. Okay, so we've opened that top piece, right? The very top. What's showing here, so they're both open. All right, so top and again. Now this next one, the one that's actually glued to this one, is the one we're going to glue our green paper to right here. And we want it to go over that 1/2 inch scored portion that we made, that we glued it together. And that just adds more reinforcement to that piece paper and kind of disguises it too. All right, and then when we open again, this piece here, we're going to use that other piece of green right there. So it's backing up, it's connected to this Christmas tree. And it looks like I've got a little, I guess it's not a bad flap, but I will at times go back through with my fine tip glue and just make sure I caught all my corners. All right, so now the next piece we want is the red with the white writing on it. This will eat up some paper, won't it? Here's mine, and that's what the back looks like. I'm gonna take a quick sip of some carbonated water here. See if I can get rid of this frog. Almost feels like it's an allergy thing that's popped up. All right, let me get that out of the way. Same exact thing. I'm putting in my trimmer where the hole is going in. I'm marking it to my 12, cutting that hole away. Now I'm going to cut to 7 3/4. And then turn it 1/4 turn. Oops, my trimmer. I didn't realize that my marks had gotten out of camera. I don't know how long that's been, so my apologies. There's those 2 pieces. And I think we may only have 2, oh, we might have 3 spots. Never mind. All right, so here's this one. So it's on the back side of the dark green that we just did. So on that back, and sometimes I liked the print, but I felt like maybe it would be too busy with the other prints that were already going on. And if I have to choose, I'm always going to choose the print that has gold foil. All right, so let's open this one up. And on the back side of that green, we'll put the other red. Just like that. And then we have a different cut for that middle piece. Okay, so this center piece, we need to find our stockings piece of paper, which is also the stripes. So, first of all, I'm going to take off that hole. So, putting the hole into the trimmer, measuring at 12, cutting that away. All right, so to make the most out of this, I might be making a mistake. Let's see, I'm gonna cut this to, if it's 8 3/8, which is what I had, I'm gonna cut it to 8 1/8. Hang on a minute, I wonder if I can get by with 8. I'm gonna cut it to 8 1/8. Yes, I am. And then I'm going to turn it a quarter turn, and this time we need it to be 6 1/2. So not 6, but 6 1/2. Oh, that's the measurement. So 6 1/4. I forgot to take the quarter off. Because this is 8 3/8 by 6 1/2. So we need 8 1/8 by 6 1/4. And that's going to get centered up on that, the base page. Oh, well, mine's a stripe now because I put the glue on the side that would have shown up. So the original one had this cute little stocking, but if you're like me and you put the glue on the wrong side, now it's got the stripe, which it's a collection, so it all goes together. Thank goodness. Okay, so I think we've covered all of the main pages. So let's close it up again in order. Right, left, right, left. So let's do this guy. Our inside flap, which is a stocking piece, needs to be this piece. Let's see what I did with my original. Is this the original? No, this is our worker bee. Okay. So this is our stocking piece. Save this for the other side, okay, for the front side. It's going to be the same measurements. And I wrote that down over here. So we're going to cut this to 3 8. That doesn't sound right. 3 6, I believe. That's what this was. Upside down. Yeah. I'm going to cut it to 3 6. So I'm going to go this way, so I leave a chunk. So I still got this chunk. And then I'll cut it. I don't like that big white gap. So I'm just going to cut mine right here at 3. So this should center up on our foil, and it does. I'll make sure I did a nice clean 3. Yes. All right, so glue that down on your inside flap. You know how it's going, it's closing on the front there? And I don't like, I use that art glitter glue. I really prefer Fabrifix because it does some funny warpy things. So depending on what you're using at home and you feel like you're not getting the results I'm getting, sometimes it's the tools we use. So I'm putting the stockings on the inside flap. Okay, so on the front flap, again, I'm just kind of refolding it to unwarp that glue. we need to find, I want the stripe going this direction. So this larger piece that we have, and we're going to cut it also at 3 by 6. And that'll get centered up here, just like that. So now everything is covered minus the backs of our waterfalls. So these backs here. So I think let's try to get those done with our scraps. So let me kind of find the order I used the scraps in. We'll do the same order. So we should have, we're going to use 2 of this dark green. We're going to use 2 of this vine. It's the red on the other side. And then we need to find light green. Here's light green. Now, there are 2 dark greens. I don't know that it matters. I didn't look at that. Why would they have 2 dark greens in the same collection? Oh well. So we're going to use these 3. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2 green. 2 of those. I've got, we need the diagonal stripe also. We can find, which I think, yeah, it's the presents. Every one of these need cut. So find this piece, your light green. We're going to pick a dark green, and I'm hoping, let me just flip and make sure we don't use any of the other pieces for decoration later. I think we're good. Okay, so we're going to use those 4. And they're just an easy, they're already 4, so we're just going to cut them to 6. 2 pieces, 4 by 6. Here's 2, make pile. That's a little wider, so I must have had to do a different cut. So I'm going to cut that down to 4. 5, 6. And that one's a little wider also. Going to trim it down to 4. 5, 6. Let's see how this one is. Yep. Trim it down to 4. The end of my trimmer. You poor thing. Don't give up on me now. This trimmer's like 100 years old. Okay, so let's do the same order that I did the demo in. So get your album out. We'll open it up to the back side. And we're going to start from this bottom. We're going to start with a dark green and glue that one down. Okay? So not from the top one, but from the bottom. The one next to that pretty ornaments that we still have to disguise with a scrap. Oh, I haven't done the inside either. The back of our flap. Let's see what I did. Okay, we'll do that in just a minute. All right, the next one, when we open, is going to be these garlands of berries. And I chose to lay it this way because when you look and it's closed, I want to be able to see that berry showing up. After the berries, we're going to do the diagonal stripe. All right. And now the light green. And I was kind of careful that we didn't repeat prints side by side when they were open and closed. When you had the front side and the back side open to each other. There's a little variety. Okay, after that we're going to go back to this guy, the garland. Which is why they didn't repeat. It still all goes together in somewhat of an order, but I was careful. There was a reason I didn't want two back to back. So now to the dark green. And you know, any way you put them on would be just fine. You just get what was in my head. Light green. Looks like my camera just froze up. Let's hit refresh. And I can get back with, hi Judy. I know you said that a long time ago. I just haven't looked up for comments. I had it on the full screen. All right, last but not least, these last two will match up. Okay, so there must have been no way around it for me. And you could do these guys if you wanted, but then it's introducing a whole new print. And I like to have some consistency. All right, so now we need to do the little back of our closure before we close him up. So let me get this off of camera for just a minute. And I did a set of these stockings. So if it's 6, we're going to go 5 3/4 by 1 3/4. And this will be the back of that closure. So let me pull my album back. And that's going to go right there. Okay, so I've got a magnet. I'm going to put a little glue around that guy. Hopefully it helps connect. And put the glue on the correct side this time. And just center it up, top, bottom, left and right. And give it a good press around that magnet so that everything makes contact. Now we can close it. All right, I think every bare piece of paper that we had covered is covered again. So let's do these little edges and the inside edge. So let me see what I used for that. Okay, I used this guy. So if it was 6 1/2, we're going to want to cut it to 6 1/4 tall. And, okay, 2 of them that are 3/4. So 2, 4, 6. So we're going to want to, mine is 2 6/8. So we're going to want to have 5/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the best way for me to try to cut a very narrow piece. Better than me trying to go 5/8 over here. So I'm going to do the same thing for my next inside piece. I'm just going to move this over 1/8 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you may have a trimmer that's going to cut that better than what I own. But for me, that's the best way to cut that real narrow. And we need one more piece that is very narrow. it's already 3/8, so we just need 1/4. So I'm going to go 1, 2, and make sure it's straight because I almost cut it crooked. There we go. I'm straight. I'm straight. And that's going to go on that little edge right here where that flap is. So that's going to go along here, right in the center, top and bottom. So while I've got that one handy, let's glue it right along that narrow center. This I do want to use my art glitter glue because it's got a finer tip to put that glue down. Can we get a hold of it? All right. And you wouldn't have to cover this if you didn't want to. To me, it just adds a little finish. All right, let's find the other 2 pieces that we cut. Here we go. So if I measured correctly, this should fit perfect, just like that. So we'll center that one up. And I'm going to stick with my art glitter glue. It's just got that finer tip for a smaller piece. And on the outside, same thing right here on that outside. So let me get my other piece and I'll get my glue and then we'll pick the album up and get it adhered. All right, let me see if I'm in camera. Give me just a sec. Yep, pretty good. So I'm going to lay that down. Try to scooch it just a bit. Let go. Let's go just a bit longer. Yeah. Okay, so everything is covered. Now we have to decorate. So I'm going to stop again, clean up my mess. We'll do video number 3 where we add all of our finishing touches. Okay, thanks for hanging out. And I'll catch you again in just a little bit. I'm going to do a little housekeeping, and then we'll do finishing touches, final version. All right. Bye, Judy. Bye, everybody else who's watching on the replay.